Alright everyone, for those who think that Trump is like anti-science, he's hyper-religious, the world's 6,000 years old, you think he's an evangelocon, you think that he's Mike Pence. Funnily enough, you want him to be the president of the United States, which is hilarious. For those of you who think that Trump is now assuring people, yes indeed, NASA will be told to send people back to the moon, as well as to Mars. We will eventually land on the red planet. Good. This is good. What we need right now is a cultural morale boost. This isn't for pragmatic reasons. Look, it's a money sink. You sink a huge amount of money into going to the moon. Even with like recoverable rockets and some of the tech that they're working on now, even with our technology being way, way better than it was in the late 60s, early 70s when we were going to the moon before. We've landed there 6 times, but some people think we only landed once. It was actually 6 times, funnily enough. I didn't know that until a few years ago. I thought that the moon landing, I thought it was the moon landing. And I realized, of course, I was totally wrong. It's like, whoops, yeah, I guess I misremembered my history there from high school. But even with all those advances, it's a money sink. But what it really gives you is that people, it's an interest story for people. It gives them a sense that there's something beyond this, increasingly shitty rock flying through space. This world's getting a little bit small. There's not anything left to explore here unless you want to literally go out into some cave system. Or go down into the Marianas Trench or something. You get into oceanography, or you become a spelunker, basically, at this point, if you want to really explore things. Or you start sailing through the Arctic. Otherwise, it's about space, for the most part. And that's great. It's just like the same rationale that I used when I was talking about Puerto Rico, and I said they should be admitted as a state. A lot of people were like, well, it'd be bad for the economy, my culture, my demographics, my voting, whatever, as though those aren't all malleable anyway, and like, fuck it. The big reason is a cultural morale boost. The idea of admitting a new state, it's something exciting, unique. It's something that binds people together as a culture. If we don't get that, it doesn't matter how much wealth we have, we become decadent and destroy ourselves, trust me. At some point, give us a half century, we'll no longer be a great power. We'll be an ass-backwards Byzantine sort of arrangement. That's what we'll be in a century, or maybe even less, if we don't work these things out and try to boost our culture. One problem is federal-level education control. Get rid of that, and that'll solve half the problem, by the way. You'd have a more educated, literate populace, that'd be great. They don't want to do that because they realize that if someone is educated and smart, they're not going to be happy flipping burgers, generally speaking, or selling things at Walmart. Ooh, I'm a department manager. I make an extra 50 cents an hour. This really fulfills me, I've got a degree, but, I feel great about life. That's not how it works. You've got a lot of smart people in society being desperately underserved at the moment. But think about it. We're on the eve of like semi-sentient robotics. Energy production is much more efficient than it was in 1970 or so. Communications technology is the standout as the thing we've advanced the most in. Everything about going to the moon should technically be easier and more efficient. It might even be cheaper, in terms of comparing for inflation, of course. The absolute number would be far higher. We can do it. It's a good idea to do it. We need to do some more exploring up there. As for Mars, we should be working on robotic systems to get us up there. Look, when we start exploring beyond the moon, we're talking about frames of time and amounts of danger and potential problems with efficiency that necessitate the use of robotics more than organic beings. It's been suggested that if we ever reach out further into the stars, that we'd basically be brains in a jar with or cryogenically frozen and attached to some automated robotic system. We'd be frozen in time, or we would just download our brains into a literal computer and the computer would reassemble an organic body later when it lands somewhere. Possible. A little bit sad to think about, actually, since it wouldn't be the same person. It wouldn't be you, actually, from that machine. It'd just be a semblance. It wouldn't actually be you. It would carry on your genetics without actually physically being the same individual possessed of a soul, if you believe in such a thing. It wouldn't be the same ego. It would be a different being entirely. So that'd be sad. You know, brain in a jar is better because then it's still you. And then you can put the brain in a new body potentially. Like, oh, thank goodness, after 1,000 years, finally I can, like, feel my legs again because I have legs instead of fucking treads. Now, I'm not a robo brain anymore. But I think this is one of the most important things Trump's announced. Because remember, for years there, NASA took a backseat, really. Obama defunded large swaths of it, rendered it to secondary importance, said, well, you know, Gingrich is stupid for thinking we should ever have a lunar colony, basically. That's one of the things that he said was the smartest. Of course we should have a lunar colony. Russia's still planning one. Russia's still planning to shoot the moon. They haven't successfully done it. We're the only ones that have ever been to the moon. But they'll be doing it soon enough. Their plan, I think, is for 2025. China's planning to do similar things. We're the only ones right now with the capability, apparently, to reliably land anything on Mars. So we're still ahead of everybody else, but I mean, we won't be unless we invest in these things. Now we've got private US-based firms that can help NASA, too. We've got much better technology. But think about it in this term. Even now, you know, decades later with so much advancement in technology, we would more easily be able to communicate to and from the moon, the trajectory, you know, calculating everything to make sure it works properly would be far easier. Everything about the trip would be more simple than it was in the 1970s. But even then, we are the rough equivalent to like some Copper Age tribe that's still sailing around on a pond with rafts. We haven't even gone out into the wider ocean yet. We're still stuck in our little cove. We're still stuck in a lagoon right now. We're behind in terms of, if you were to look back at human history like in a nautical sense, and look at the history of humans utilizing watercraft to travel around, you know, potentially to an island or even another continent or whatever. We're not even to the stage where we're building the most primitive barges of Samaria. We're not even to the age of hammering together chunks of wood with stone tools, practically. We're still using hand-dug canoes at this point and not even using them to go on long distances. All we've done is land on the moon, the closest body in space. There's no similarity between the difficulty with doing that and going to Mars with a human crew. And I know some of these private firms are like, oh, we want a colony on Mars. Maybe we should go for the moon first. The best way to do it is for communication purposes, especially if you were to set up a station on the moon to boost signals. It would make it a hell of a lot easier to communicate with Mars in the future anyway. And if something goes wrong, you know, maybe that helps you land there as an intermediary step. You can leave behind supplies so that a group of astronauts would have extra oxygen, extra food and water and things. No, or maybe a station that actually produces its own water. Look, there is ice on the moon. In the past, we didn't know that, and so we were like, well, you know, we're not going to develop technology for potentially extracting water or any other resources or planting on lunar soil for some reason. I mean, there's no reason to do that because we thought it was impossible. Now we know that's all easily possible. Mars has degraded Earth-like volcanic soils too. Like literally soil, as we would understand it, degraded, turned into a stratum you could grow on. It's definitely there. We know that for a fact. There's plenty of water there too. There's evaporated water, liquid water. There's certainly a lot of ice. It's all there. So I would say it's very good that Trump has announced this, and I hope that we carry it out as quickly as possible, mainly for the prevention of decadence. That's about all. Peace out.